Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. I am Brian Fisher. The program is Focal Point. The network is AFR Talk, the American Family Radio Talk Network. Do not forget, you want to get the best, most comprehensive voter guide available in America, go to afaaction.net. afaaction.net. Go to afaaction.net. Your browser will take you right to that spot, and the voter guide will pop up. You don't have to do anything else other than put your address or your zip code in there, and it will pop up the voter guide that pertains to you and where you live and the races that you're going to have a chance to vote on. An enormous amount of research has gone into this. It's the most well-researched, thoroughly prepped voter guide available on the web. Every candidate gets a letter grade. So if you trust us here at AFA, if you trust the homework we do, you trust the assessment we do, that may be all you need to know which of these two candidates is going to be most closely aligned with our values. So go to afaaction.net. Let's go back to the phones, grab one more call before we get back into content. Let's go to Bobby in Tyler, Texas. Bobby, thanks for calling and thanks for waiting. What's on your mind? Okay, let me see if I can bring the call in. Looks like I'm hung up here. Let's try one more thing. Go to, let me see if I can do that. I got to figure out how to, I guess we're going to have to come back to Bobby. We're having a little bit of difficulty with the software bringing him on. So Bobby, hang tight. We'll figure out how to get you on here in just a second. Okay, now I think we've got Bobby. Bobby, Tyler, Texas. Thanks for calling. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Hey, a couple of things on my mind, so bear with me if you will, just for a minute.
Go right ahead.
I want to commend you for your show, for always speaking your mind and pursuing the points that are on your heart. I think that's something that is needed, especially to counterweight what's going on with the out of the mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I just want to commend you on that. I want to tell you that your show is a networking tool. I recently met someone through your show. I was listening to your show while working and came across somebody who was also out working and met a new person through your show. So,
well, fantastic.
Shout out to my new buddy Arthur through your show, a networking tool.
All right, well, fantastic. Good to hear.
The point, I'm trying to save time. That's why I'm trying to rush here because I know you have a lot to cover and I want to hear what you have to cover. But I wanted to bring up Ahmadinejad, his UN speech that he gave. And I know you have a lot on your plate, but if you haven't read that, I'd like to give you a homework assignment to read that, and I'd like to hear your assessment going back over, because it makes me think about the disingenuous nature of politicians, for instance, our president right now, this whole issue with the Benghazi situation, where he's, I heard it on NPR. They said they were talking about it. You might be familiar with the Diane Rehm show. They were discussing it the other morning, and they said he got lucky because he happened to use the word terror. And I think that's just outrageous that here we have people, we're not talking about a game, we're not talking about a board game where you got lucky, you landed on the right spot, you said the right word. We're talking about the leader of the free world. You don't get lucky. If you're disingenuous, you don't need to have that job, period.
Mm-hmm.
But it made me think, because I read the speech that Ahmadinejad gave, and I'd like for you maybe to go over his speech line by line and point out points where he's being disingenuous, because I assume that in places like Cuba, you mentioned that earlier, places like Iran, these people have a lot of support in their homeland, otherwise there would be change.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the service that you do here, where you call out the left-wing people on their inconsistencies and their half-truths and things like that, I wondered if you have time, you might want to look into his speech and point out some of that stuff to the broader audience.
All right, Bobby, listen, I appreciate that. I can't make any promises about that, but I will do it if I can. And, Ahmadinejad's got some real problems in Iran. I mean, they've got hyperinflation. They've got runaway inflation in Iran. I mean, they have the kind of inflation that Weimar Germany had, where people were taking actually wheelbarrows of money down to the store to buy bread. And they'd get paid at noon, and they'd go to the bank to cash it before their lunch break was over because their money would be worth less by quitting time. I mean, that's how bad things got. And Iran is heading into that territory. They've got a lot of civil unrest because their economy is completely in the tank, which makes Ahmadinejad a particularly dangerous dude. And you've got experts saying they're 2 to 4 months away from having enough nuclear material for a missile. Now, you don't need or a bomb, rather. You don't need a missile. I mean, they've been testing missiles, so they'll probably have a delivery system. But you can throw one of those in a suitcase. You can throw one of those in the back of an SUV, and it becomes just as lethal as if it's dropped from the sky. So, you got Barack Obama out there saying, or Joe Biden out there saying, hey, our intelligence services, they are cracked. They're number one. They're a long ways away from being able to deliver a nuclear missile. We got nothing to worry about. It's a long way away from that. And our intelligence services, the intelligence services that completely misled us on Libya, that's what Biden said. Now, they didn't mislead him, but that's what Biden said. Our intelligence services were so incompetent that they gave us bad information. They gave us bad intel on Libya. That's why we're out there blaming this thing on the movie, because we were just doing what our intelligence told us. So it's all their fault. Dump it on them. Dump it on the State Department. And then Joe Biden turns right around and say, hey, our intelligence service, they're the best in the world. We don't have to worry about Iran until our intelligence people tell us we got something to worry about. So everybody chill out. Nothing to see here. Nothing. And you got these experts saying, hey, they're 2 to 4 months away from having enough material for a nuclear bomb. But the thing about Ahmadinejad, he's dangerous because for 2 reasons. Number one, he said all we need to know, he wants to wipe Israel off the map. He said that repeatedly. He's the guy that's determined to wipe Israel off the face of the map. He gets a nuclear weapon. He's the guy that'll use it. It's like I said before, when a Muslim tells you he wants to destroy you, believe him. When a Muslim tells you he wants to kill you, you got to believe him. Now, we think when people say that, it's an idle threat. They don't really mean it. You look at all these Twitter threats on Mitt Romney's life. I mean, there's been an explosion of people threatening to assassinate Mitt Romney. And the Secret Service is saying, oh, yeah, we'll look into it if it looks like it's serious. Well, they're threatening his life. They're threatening to kill him, assassination. And we look at that in America, and we're used to seeing that and say, these people aren't serious about that. They don't really mean it. They're just blowing off steam. Well, when a Muslim says it, it's not the same thing. You got to believe him. So when Ahmadinejad says, I want to wipe Israel off the face of the map, you got to believe that if he has a nuclear weapon, he will use it to do exactly that. He doesn't care if he gets immolated in the process. That guarantees him a trip to paradise, and it will hasten the coming of the 12th Imam. That's why we got to understand that devout Muslims just do not think like you and I think. They don't think like you and I think because their minds are being shaped by a dark, deceptive spirit. So we think that's just ludicrous that somebody would think that way. Well, it is, but that's because they're under the influence of this dark, deluding spirit, and they do not think like rational people do. And Ahmadinejad, remember his eschatology, he believes there's this 12th Imam hiding out somewhere in a well, been there for 1,000+ years, and the only thing that this 12th Imam needs to emerge, become the Messiah, he's going to come with Jesus. Jesus is going to be at his side. Jesus is going to be riding shotgun with the 12th Imam, but the 12th Imam is the guy. He's the guy, the savior of the world. He's going to come back to put everything right. He's hiding in a well somewhere, and he can't come back with Jesus until there's worldwide chaos. And Ahmadinejad says, that's my job. If there has to be worldwide chaos for the 12th Imam to hop out of that well and come back into history, then I'm going to provide, by Allah, I'm going to provide the worldwide chaos that's necessary for the coming of the 12th Imam. Now, you may say, well, that sounds crazy. No rational person could think like that. You're exactly right. He is not a rational person. And if a Muslim says, my job is to create worldwide chaos so the 12th Imam can pop out of a well somewhere, you had best believe him. That's why we cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. That's why we must use military force to strike now while we still can. Remember, Bibi Netanyahu is saying the window of opportunity is closing. It may even be closed by the time we get past the election. The time to strike where you can actually delay their nuclear plans for several years, that window is rapidly closing. So anyway, a long discursus there. If I have an opportunity to go back to Ahmadinejad's UN speech, I'll be happy to do that. Now, let's play a couple of sound bites, Rob, if we can. Let's grab Andrea Mitchell, clip number 5. She's talking about the debate. Remember, that got pretty heated at some point. It was kind of mano a mano. They were in each other's space. And here is Andrea Mitchell. Now, I loved it, frankly. I ate that thing up, but that's because I am a guy. Now, here is what a feminazi, as Rush Limbaugh refers to him, here's what a woman thinks about these guys getting up in each other's grill. Let's listen.
I think the real takeaway here was just the sort of vibe and the physicality of it.
Yeah.
John Meacham was saying earlier, I've never seen a debate where the two of them were so much in each other's space. I mean, we talked about what happened with Al Gore getting in George W's space in 2000, but in this case, they were just like, two roosters going at each other.
Two roosters going at each other with just too much testosterone. Now, let's jump down to clip number 9 if we can, Rob. This is David Plouffe, who's the president advisor. And I want you to listen to what he says about how he thought Barack Obama did in the debate on Tuesday. Remember, he is a senior advisor to the Obama campaign. Let's listen.
Well, we think the president made real progress tonight in really animating the differences between these two candidates.
He said he made real progress. I mean, that's David Plouffe. That's the president's guy. He didn't say Obama won this thing hands down. He didn't knock Romney out of the ring. He said the president made real progress. When somebody says that, you can be sure that he knows his guy did not get done what he needed to get done. Now, let's drop down to clip 12. I don't know if we're going to have time to play that. Let's save that for right after the break. I'll set it up here. This is Frank Luntz. He did a focus group after the debate on Tuesday night with folks that were largely people who had voted for Barack Obama in 2008. And he wanted to get their reactions right after the debate. We'll play some of those for you when we come back. You know, one other thing that the president made a big deal of is this war on women thing that Mitt Romney opposed the Lilly Ledbetter Act, Fair Pay Act. Obama said, I'm all over that Fair Pay Act. We got the Lilly Ledbetter Act paid because we do not want women to get paid $1 less than what a man gets paid. But according to a report published by the Free Beacon in April of 2011, Barack Obama pays his male employees 18% more than he pays his female employees, and he did it when he was a senator. He paid the average male staffer $54,000, the average female staffer $45,000. Focal Point, AFR Talk, back in 2.